On this afternoon at 6:30, the entire University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff family is invited to Sis's Log Cabin for a reception. You do need an invitation in your hand to be admitted. If you don't have an invitation in your hand, all you need to do is go online to Campus Bulletin and print it out and have that in your hand. There will be some door prizes. This is another example of the university's outreach effort, and it's partnering with area businesses and organizations. And that leads us into the panel that we are having now. This is a panel of people very skilled in the work of business and foundations. And we've asked them to come out and share with us practical ideas on how we may re-image and brand ourselves in the 21st century. There's one other thing I want to say about that re-imaging and branding. And Mr. Steele said it so well. I won't try to say it the way he said it. But once we put that brand out there and the new image, we've got to deliver. It's more than window dressing. It's a new mindset. It's a new behavioral approach that people will be able to see it in our step. They'll see it in our words, and they'll see it in our action. So we are so pleased to have the Honorable Representative Henry Hank Wilkins IV to moderate this session. I'm just going to kind of recede into one of these chairs, sit back and listen and take notes. But we also have outstanding representatives with us, starting with Mrs. Beverly Morrow. I remember her so well from her entrepreneurial abilities, and I see she has gone forward and just sort of combined all of those successful ventures, and she is now the owner-operator of TLM Management. And you know, Mrs. Mara, I would like for you to take at least 30 seconds to tell us just a little bit about your organization, TLM Management, because you are an example of what people can do in the world of business if they put the right mindset to it. Then we have Miss Amy Johnson. So delighted to have a senior vice president from Simmons Bank. One of their upper level officials, Mr. Marty Castillo, is on our board of visitors, and I've seen him at the games, and we've met at the Chancellor's house. Simmons is really a strong partner of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And we also have just an expert. When I think of foundations and education coming together and bridging, and a person who is the personification of that type partnership, I think of Dr. Nachman Williams, and really wanting him to be here. Really, I kind of did that with Dr. Johnson for all three of those people, because they are real important people, real busy people. And as a chancellor, I think you're going to have to write that letter and make those telephone calls to be sure that the answer is yes when we finally talk to them. So I am so glad to have them come and share information with you. And you know what? If you don't mind, keep your little notepad out, because I'm sure you're going to get some very practical information on how we prepare our students for success as a 21st century university, starting with the Honorable Representative Wilkins.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to thank Dr. Benjamin and the committee for inviting me to be here. And what I'd like to do in just a moment is ask each of our panelists to share a little bit about themselves so that you can have a greater appreciation of the perspective from whence they speak. I'm Henry Hank Wilkins IV. I'm pastor of St. James United Methodist Church, just right a few hundred yards from where we are right now. service at 10 a.m. every Sunday morning. And if I haven't finished preaching and gotten you out by 11:30, you're welcome to get up and leave. It is a joy to be here. Dr. Benjamin indicated to you that the Chancellor contacted each one of these persons to make sure that they could be here, put that power pressure on them because they're such important and busy people. I was thankful that one of the groundskeepers was willing to call me and see if I could be here. As we prepare today, we're going to, of course, give the opportunity to the audience, to you, at some point to ask questions. But we want to begin first. I'm going to ask each of our panelists if they would just do a self-introduction at this time, starting with Ms. Morrow.
Good morning, and once again, I'd like to thank the Chancellor. I'd like to thank the Chancellor and Dr. Benjamin for this invitation. As was previously stated, my name is Beverly Morrow. My husband and I own TLM Management, which stands for the Lord's McDonald's because it's a blessing from the Lord. We previously owned the McDonald's on Hardins and the Walmart, and now we own operators in Saline County and in Little Rock. So it's indeed been a blessing being here in Arkansas.
Ms. Johnson.
I too want to thank Dr. Benjamin, Dr. Johnson, my fellow panelists, the university staff for this opportunity. I was sharing with Carla Martin today, before I tell you a little bit about myself, it's always a pleasure and a great learning experience for me and Simmons First when we get to participate in opportunities like this. We have our own view or perspective, but it's so nice to hear others and I always have so much that I can take back and that we can use. So I applaud each of you for being here. I hope that you too can take something back that you can use. I'm at Simmons First National Bank. I have been there for almost 30 years. And I laugh and say that I have worked in every area of the bank. And that when they moved me to marketing, they tell me this was my last gig. If it didn't work there, I guess I was on the street. But I have worked for Simmons for almost 30 years and had the wonderful opportunity to learn banking from the ground up. So I say to you that are college students thinking and contemplating your employment opportunities out there, don't be disappointed if they start you at the bottom. Be thankful. That gives you the opportunity to truly understand the business and the people at all levels that make that business work. So again, I thank you for allowing me to be here. Simmons thanks you for this opportunity, and I'm quite confident we will be the winners and go away with lots that we can use to make our business better.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Johnson, for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Benjamin, Representative Wilkins, let me just open up with this statement. It is an outstanding time to be affiliated with the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. You know, I got here a little early, and I was able to sit in the back and listen to Mr. Steele, and I was just impressed with what you all, let me change that, what y'all, every last one of you are getting ready to do. This is, you don't understand the impact that when you all are successful with this, what it can have not only on the institution, but more importantly to me, your students. You see, I'm all about education, and I believe education is about creating opportunities. So when a student walks across the stage at UAPB, they're going to have opportunities. A little bit about myself so I can be obedient, which is a little bit better than sacrifice. I'm with the Walton Family Foundation. When I started there was just 3 of us. We didn't even have file cabinets. I'm wrapping up 16 years. I have done a little bit of everything with the foundation over the time. I also have two relationships with Dr. Johnson that I will mention to you. One is a personal relationship. I started in higher ed back in 1988, and Dr. Johnson was at UALR at the time, and I consider him one of my mentors.
All right.
I did not know how higher ed worked in general. And I met Dr. Johnson, and I've always been able to pick up the phone and call him just to get a little bit of advice. And we worked closely together when I was on the State Board of Education, and he was on the Education Committee during that time also. So I guess also on a professional level, we worked in the area of grant making with our Delta Scholars at one time here at UAPB also. I guess the bottom line is that when Dr. Johnson calls, I answer, to make it simple. But what I want to, when the opportunity comes about, I want to just kind of give you an overview of what a foundation looks at from my perspective in working with institutions. And I do work with all the institutions that the Walton Family Foundation is engaged with. Thank you.
Let's give a hand for all of our panelists, please. While I mentioned to you my responsibility as a pastor, for those of you who don't know me personally, I am in what is my second of 3 terms in the Arkansas House. As you know, Arkansas has term limits, and you can only serve a certain number of years. So I served my very first term in the Arkansas House in the late 90s and had the privilege of having Calvin Johnson as my seatmate. And we sat together, we often commuted together, and then as I moved over to the state senate, and he took the responsibility and the helm of the education committee in the House, the first African American in the history of Arkansas to chair the education committee. And I was on the education committee on the Senate end, and took my marching orders from him then, as well as I do still today. As a matter of fact, he is my older brother. Some of you will get that on the way home. And you would not believe how many times, and he and I both have had many laughs about this, because people will run up to him, Senator Wilkins, Representative Wilkins, I need to talk to you about something. People run up. Yesterday, somebody stopped me. Dr. Calvin Johnson, I have been waiting for this opportunity. And here's what I think you need to do at UAPB. And proceeded to give me a 30-minute lecture about what I need to do at UAPB. And I assured them that everything that they needed would be done. So it is good to be here today. Now, what I'd like to do to structure this, and one of the beauties of being the moderator, is that it's kind of like on Sunday morning when the pastor gets up, he's in charge. And so the moderator's in charge, and I get to ask the panelists if they would, each after having introduced themselves, tell us a little bit about their perspective in terms of re-imaging and how that relates specifically to UAPB. And then after we have done that, and we'll do it in the same order that they did their self-introductions, I will have some questions for them, you'll have questions, and at the end, we'll give each of them an opportunity to do a wrap-up. Is that okay with you? Can you say amen? Amen. All right. So we'll begin with the opening statements.
Hopefully I followed the directions, and I was asked to look at the 21st century jobs and university. So when I think of the 21st century, if I had to describe it in one word, it'd be change, and if I had to do it in 2 words, it'd be rapid change. which would also apply to the 21st Century University, which has to prepare their students for the 21st century jobs. So looking and thinking about 21st century jobs and pondering, I did what your students would have did immediately. I Googled 21st century jobs. And there is a number of articles that talk about 21st century jobs. And there are a number of things that were in common. One was that on the average, workers will change jobs about 7 times during their career, which means that they are constantly learning and seeking opportunity. Nearly 80% of all jobs will require some sort of post-secondary training. There's always going to be level entry jobs, which will require minimum training and skills, but for the higher paying wage jobs, our students are going to have to be really grounded in math and reading skills. They're going to have to be able to think. They're going to have to be able to communicate and find answers between other people, come up with solutions, solve problems. Manufacturing is going to be dictated by the advances of science and technology. So there are going to be specific skills, and the 21st Century University is going to have to learn and be aware of these skills so that they are prepared to train their students. And also, the job market has become global, which means, according to Thomas Friedman, that the world has become narrow, it's become flat. So no longer do they compete with other Americans, they're competing across the entire world. So our students have to be able to compete, and they have to be able to work in a diverse arena. And then lastly, it looks like the job market, the new workers, they need to know how to be skillful in social media as well as their specific skills. Now it's going to be the university job, and maybe before the university, that they have to learn how to be responsible, because when they go out for a job, the job already knows about them, and they know about them from them. So it's going to be their responsibility to make sure that they tell the story. But in addition, the university needs to teach their students how to use the social network to network and to job hunt. So UAPB, just like all 21st century universities, the challenge is how rapidly we can change, because there has to be a change, and the university today will not look like the university of tomorrow. We can see some of those changes now with online and virtual classes, and that probably will be the norm. Our educators will have to be learners, because they will have to keep abreast of the new and the latest skills coming out, which means that there will have to be more partnering with industry and companies to be on the leading edge. And the educators might no longer be the consultants, but they might be learners on the job so that they are better able to prepare their students. UAPB and other schools like them who have taken on the additional task of accepting accepting students who are underprepared for college must also partner with lower level schools in order to secure their foundational skills, because they will have the dual job of raising them to standard and then getting them ready to compete out into the world. I'd like to end with a statement I found today, but before that, I'm sure many of you watched the Olympics, and Bolt, who lost his competition in the qualifying round, many doubted his ability to win gold. But he went to the Olympics, and not only did he win 1 gold medal, he won 3. So for traditional colleges and universities to thrive in times of ever-accelerating change, they must develop new approaches to contend, to deliver, tested with real students, and validated in the marketplace. So this is a time for universities to change, become adaptable, so that they can prepare their children for the 21st century job market.
Thank you, Beverly. Beverly spoke to the student in the classroom, and I want to speak to those same things too, but I want to bring maybe more of a perspective from what I do to this topic. And let me tell you just a little bit about me really quickly. I am in marketing at Simmons First. But marketing has evolved and changed rapidly as everything else. When people say you're in marketing, they think we place ads in newspapers, and we do that. But we also have responsibility for business development, sales, product research, and we have the huge responsibility of public relations, which in that falls donations and who we donate money to. So that's a perspective I want to share with you today. As Ms. Morrow said, colleges today face daunting challenges. All universities are vying to attract high-quality students and faculty. To achieve this goal, they must distinguish themselves among the thousands of schools, and as Ms. Morrow said, across not only the United States, but the globe. Rapid changes in science and technology have added workplace requirements entailing shared decision-making, information sharing, collaboration, innovation, and speed like we've never seen it before. Student success relies heavily on the ability, as Ms. Morrow said, to communicate, share, use the information to solve very complex problems, and being able to adapt, innovate in response to new demands and changing circumstances, and they change moment to moment today. And being able to command and expand the power of technology to create new knowledge. So how do today's colleges prepare students with a wider range of academic readiness for a more heavenly, knowledge-based economy? I believe curriculum must be aligned with the 21st century challenge. They must create opportunities for students to build knowledge and skills they need to compete in a rapidly changing global economy, foster collaboration with the community, and to develop new programs and services to address community needs while enriching the learning experience of the student. Leverage the resources of the university to support local businesses and improve the community. Strive to create strong partnerships with local school districts to enhance student readiness for college. Give attention to infrastructure, administrative infrastructure, capable of delivering the level of support needed for students to be successful. To provide that infrastructure, staff must not only have the appropriate skills and training, but must be at levels to support the quantity of work that needs to be done. Core infrastructure, making sure the latest technology is available in the classrooms, as it has to be a high priority. Then very importantly, and I think this is what I want to speak to today, is industry infrastructure. In order for universities to conduct business effectively and efficiently, just as other businesses such as Simmons Bank, there must be an investment by the university in local business enterprises, as Simmons first must make an investment in the universities in our communities. Education is and always has been the foundation upon which the future success of the student, our businesses, our communities, our state, our nation, and our world rests. The goal must be to provide a high-quality, challenging program that prepares the graduate to lead and serve in their personal life, profession, and community. We've talked about change and the rapid speed, but there's also something I found on the UAP website that speaks to, yes, there's change, but you've always heard the more things change, the more they stay the same sometimes. So we have to deal with the things that change, but continue to remember the things that we don't want to change. This is from John B. Watson. He was the first president of A&M College. And you can read this statement on your website. The end of education is to know God and the laws and purposes of His universe, and to reconcile one's life with these laws. The first aim of a good college is not to teach books, but the meaning and purpose of life. Hard study and the learning of books are only means to an end. We develop power, courage, and determination, and we go out to achieve truth, wisdom, and justice. If we do not come to this, the cost of schooling is wasted. And then I continue to read your evolving mission statement. The thrust of this new and expanded mission could and should result in the re-examination and improvement of the value systems. And that is what Mr. Watson said 138 years ago. And our moral behavior of our political institutions and our economic system. Such a mission does not merely support the advancements of science and technology, it uses science and technology to solve economic, social, political, racial, and cultural problems. Again, the more things change, the more some things need to stay the same. Now, I'm on task here, I think. Maximizing success of the student, providing a student with the staff with appropriate skills, and an environment that is high-tech and promotes learning is costly and requires funding and resources. And that's what I want to speak to today from my perspective. Mrs. Morrow talked about communication. She talked about the ability to share, the ability to work together. So I want to talk about that. The most widespread source of funding for universities has always been federal funding. What do we know about federal funding today? Many, not just universities, are heavily dependent upon it. There is an ever-present threat of it decreasing, and competition for it is intense. Therefore, universities and other organizations are being forced to look for alternative sources for support and funding. I believe, and what I want to talk about very briefly now, are two areas I believe that are great sources of funding and resources for a university, but they are also great for the businesses and the communities that that university serves. One is the industry infrastructure I mentioned earlier. In order for universities to conduct business effectively and efficiently, there must be an investment by the university and local business enterprises. But I also say that for local businesses to operate effectively and efficiently, they must invest in their local universities. Collaboration speaks to what both Ms. Morrow and I have talked about. It is defined as two or more people or organizations combine their resources and work together to achieve a common and mutually beneficial goal. What I believe is going to be extremely beneficial in being able to maximize student success and provide the needs for those students is university, corporate, and community collaborations. Corporate collaborations have become a sought-after source by universities for much-needed support and funding. Thus, the university's ability to develop and maximize these corporate collaborations is critical. Corporations today remain philanthropic, much to what you may hear differently. We strive to give back to the communities we serve. However, current economic uncertainties, the requisite to reward our shareholders, keep up with the customer's demands, and increase the bottom line, force us to closely evaluate each request. We must weigh the benefits of the donation or investment we're about to make. Which of these donations and investments will extract the most value not only for our business, but for the communities in which we serve. We can no longer consider ourselves simply donors to academia or any other organization, but consider ourselves to be investors, partners, where knowledge creation and transfer are a significant part of the equation. Interactions between universities and corporations must provide strategic benefits as future employees for the community, to generate future employees for the community, sponsored research, new technologies, executive education, and economic development, to name but a few. Corporations are seeking university partners who can provide solutions to our problems, as well as enhance the communities in which we are located. We want university, corporate, community collaborations. Research has identified essential elements of success to the 21st century university's corporate relations program. Some of those elements are institutional in support, the commitment of the university leadership to corporate relations, establishing and maintaining durable relationships with industry, one-stop shopping, promote your university, simplify and accelerate the access to your university and its resources to businesses and local organizations. Work to build strong working relationships with local businesses in the community. Provide personalized services that can be tailored to the needs of the local businesses and the local community. This provides mutual benefits. A university corporate collaboration must be based on business needs while still aligning the priorities of the university, corporation, and community. It must be a win-win for all. Industry affiliate advisory panels, internship co-ops, student organization sponsorships, Philanthropic and manpower support of community causes and organizations are but a few of the ways that universities, communities, and businesses can support the growth of their community. As the university, local business, and community organizations build trust with one another, they deepen the win-win relationships. University corporate community collaborations do make a difference. They broaden a participant's perspective, examine business and community issues, expand opportunities to develop friendships from all segments and walks of life, and strengthen our leadership skills. And if you don't believe me, I have some very good examples of collaboration between a university, businesses, and our community right here in Palm Bluff and Jefferson County. Many of you may have visited the Donald W. Reynolds Center. What a testament to collaboration. That opportunity was afforded to 3 states. We got it right here in Palm Bluff, Arkansas. It was a $10.6 million cost, and $3.6 million came from the private and public sector. It is home to 21 United Way agencies. The UAP big football stadiums, second to none. I love your stadium. I love your band. Love your football team too. $12.5 million stadium, 14,000 seats, right here in Palm Bluff, Arkansas. Saracen Landing, the private sector donated $418,000 to that project. Our city, $100,000. Our state, $25,000. Game and Fish, $280,000, and the federal government, $2 million. A collaborative effort to make the community better. And right here, your Aqua Center of Excellence at the University of Arkansas, you may not realize what a collaborative effort you have right here on campus. It is recognized as a leader in aquaculture and fisheries, teaching research and extension programs. The only comprehensive program within the University of Arkansas system to support the state's $167 million aquatic industry. You're supporting the aquatic fish industry, business owners. This industry has an economic impact of over $1.2 billion in the Delta and has a growing natural fisheries component that provides scientific support to the recreational fishing industry, and with an economic impact of over $440 million in Arkansas. I want to leave you with a few quotes. At the bank, they always laugh and say that I can never close anything without quotes. Some are more sophisticated than others, and you're going to find when I read these to you a few of the people I tend to call upon for their knowledge and their quotes. Nelson Mandela says, "Education is the most powerful weapon which can use to change the world." Also, I don't know how many of you ever read Dr. Seuss to your children. And sometimes you would just nod your head and your eyes would be almost shut and you thought, I cannot read one more line. But there was a lot of wisdom in those words. And I have given this book to many a graduate from both high school and college. And it's the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. Dr. Seuss was a smart man. And I encourage you each, I try to read these regularly and I pass them out at the bank often. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know. And you are the one who will decide where you go. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact. And remember that life's a great balancing act. Will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Unless someone like you cares a whole lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Other places you'll go, there is fun to be done. There are points to be scored. There are games to be won. And the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. And then I love this one, and I pass it around in our financial institution a lot. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, concerned citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And that was Margaret Mead. So I want to leave, and I know I've taken too much time, but I truly appreciate this opportunity to say that UAPB is an outstanding example of a university that recognizes education and always and has been the foundation upon the future success of the student, our businesses, our communities, our state, our nation, and our world. UAPB strives to provide high-quality, challenging programs that prepare you, the graduate, to lead, and continuing to ensure the aim of John John B. Watson that said, "A good college is not to teach books, but the meaning and purpose of life." Maximizing their graduate success in their personal life and professional, graduates who seek to make their commitments to their communities and make those communities a better place. That's what I believe UAPB stands for, and I believe they are a perfect example of a collaboration between a community, its businesses, and its university. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Morrow, you all kind of set the stage for me. I'm going to be brief, but I want to be direct. I want to take a little different perspective. Why is it important to brand? I heard some of the things that Mr. Steele said, and they were excellent. I'm just going to take a little different perspective. Who funds institutions? The state, federal government, private donors, businesses and corporations, and foundations. Do you realize the majority of the people who make those decisions that affect this institution will have never set foot on this campus? Think about that. Now, when I receive a proposal from any institution, really from any organization, I go to their mission. I look to see what makes them so special in order to do what they're asking to do. You have to differentiate yourself in similar fields. Why is UAPB better to do this than another institution? It helps you become more clear about who you are. One of the things I do, not only do I go to an organization's website, I also want to talk to some of the clients or the people that they serve. I want to know whether the institution has enough horsepower to do what they say they're going to do. If you focus on your mission and goals, it allows you, as individuals, representatives of this institution, to be more confident about who you are as an organization. There's nothing worse than to get mixed signals. You understand what I'm saying? There's nothing worse than to get mixed signals about who you are. A couple of questions for you. Rhetorical questions. Just want you to think about this. List 3 words that you think when you think of when you describe UAPB. You can do that both internally and externally. What comes to mind? Because others that have never set foot on this campus, the minute they see your name, they're developing an image of who you are. I want you to list 3 things that you believe UAPB does best. Just think about it. See, you're doing a lot of great things, but I guarantee you, you all are going to have different ideas of what you all do best. Finally, list 1 goal for each of the following. List 1 goal for your students. Who are your students? The branding of your students. What makes a UAPB grad special? List 1 of the goals for this category. The university itself. We're thinking about your students. We're focusing on the university. And finally, What's the goal for the university in the community and in the state? What role do you see UAPB playing in its community and in its state? Whenever I get a request, most of the institutions I deal with, I will never set foot on them. I will go online, I start doing some research. I Google, I look up news articles, specifically news articles relating to whatever the request is built around. Then I'm going to reach out and visit the institution itself, usually by phone. I might start at one area of the university. If it's a collaborative effort, I'm going to call another area of the university. It sure would be great to hear the same message. And then I'm going to take a look at the people that whatever the area that's being addressed, who are you serving? I'm going to visit with them to see whether can this institution or this organization, can they meet your needs? Now, everything I just talked about is all built around imaging, messaging, branding, call it what you may. And then finally, the most important thing to me is how well you serve your students. That is the hook. If you're not serving your students well, nothing else is really going to weigh a whole lot. You have a mission. You have a special mission based on where you're located. We can go all the way back to the Morale Act itself and look at your mission. It's not about who you serve, it's about how well you serve them. And that's what I'm looking at. With every institution I look at, that's what I'm looking for. You have a special mission, you have a special location, but one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to look at, your admissions is not that big of an issue. I believe that kids deserve an opportunity for an education. But now let's go to the flip side. Getting them in is not an issue. Okay, you know where I'm going? What's your graduation rate? What's your if you're going to get them in, you need to get them out with a degree. So that's the part that's really important. I actually looked up the numbers. I'm not going to go into that much detail. But I just want to put the seeds out there because it doesn't matter who you serve. If you serve them well, that says a lot right there. I'm going to stop at this point and leave a little time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to begin our Q&A by addressing a few questions to the panelists and asking them to give some thought about their answers for each of these. Is it the responsibility of a university, of UAPB, to help students to develop character, helping them to understand the complexities of the world in which we live, and teaching character traits such as performance-related traits, adaptability, persistence, resilience, and moral-related traits such as integrity, justice, empathy, and ethics. And I'd like to see if the panelists would be willing to take a shot at that question. Don't everybody speak at once.
I do think it's the responsibility of the university to make sure the students understand their responsibility in the job market. Unfortunately, and being that I work at McDonald's, too often the work ethics that they have are just below par. It goes back to the basics, to how they dress, how they feel about their coworkers, about grumbling at the job, and that all is not good at a job place. So I think it's important that the universities make them aware of their responsibility to go to work with good work ethics and responsibility.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Setting expectations. You know, if you think of some of your more public organizations on campus, there are expectations. If you're going to march in the UAPB band, there are expectations. If you're going to participate in certain organizations on campus, there are expectations. When I taught at the University of Arkansas, I had a little incident where a young man insisted on wearing dark shades and baseball cap in my class. I met him one day after class, and I told him, "You're the only person in here that's dressed that way." I said, "Do you really want to leave here and actually get a job somewhere?" And he thought about it for a minute. That was the first point. He had to actually think about it. But he came to the conclusion, yes. And I said, "Then tomorrow begins your job interview. How you present yourself in class makes a difference to me." And he wanted to know, why would it make a difference to me? Because it's going to make a difference to me because I want you to succeed. And by me wanting you to succeed means I am willing to sign a piece of paper and serve as a reference for you. But the process begins tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
I couldn't agree more with Ms. Morrow or Dr. Williams. I also, too, agree that these traits are extremely important. And from another standpoint that we mentioned today, collaboration. How can you work with others to solve complex problems, be it at your business, your community, or for others, if you do not have a healthy respect for one another? And the traits that Dr. Wilkins just mentioned, I think, are non-negotiables in bringing the traits to the table that will help you in collaborating with others.
All right, thank you. All right, our panelists handled that really, really well, so let me give them my slow curveball. Panelists, I'd be interested in knowing your thoughts in terms of knowledge. Often it's been said that universities have an inability to connect the content of what happens in the classroom to the real world experience that students need to be successful. So I'm asking you now to dig even a little bit deeper, because there's the intellectual and some professors, I'm sure there are none here today, but some professors love to hear themselves talk. And they'll get up in front of the class and they will talk for the entire 50 minutes, 55 minutes, and the student walks away after having had a nice little nap. And so, you know, I'm concerned about this because in my experience, both as a pastor, as a legislator, as one who has experience across the country in a variety of ways, one of the things that I have seen is that so many times students graduate with a degree in whatever, and yet they are unsuccessful in connecting the content that has been placed within them, we hope, to their real world experience on the job. Anybody?
Well, I think that goes back to the 21st century university, is that it is part of the university's mission job to prepare their students for the new job market. I think there's going to be a lot more collaboration between universities and industries and companies so that they are aware, not just aware, but they're knowledgeable about the new skills and techniques that are out there to bring them back to their students. And then I think that's going to be the changing environment of a university, that, you know, the classroom is no longer going to be that structured classroom that we know today and at previous times. And I think it's going to evolve where the classrooms might be at businesses so that students get that on-hand practical experience.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Morrow. Let me, you talked about the 21st century skills and knowledge, and that's one of the things that is very important for us to think about, especially in a venue like this one today. But I would suggest that often it is difficult for university leaders to set priorities that entail the kind of change necessary to do what Mrs. Morrow just said. Universities must change in order to thrive, and our universities have changed dramatically over time. For example, in the students that are admitted to college, the faculty that are hired, and the subjects that are taught. Yet it seems that we are structured in a way that makes us slow to change relative to many other organizations. To me, it seems that most universities are more like a gigantic battleship or a cruise ship that can hold 5,000 people that takes forever to make a turn or to turn around, when in the society in which we live today, it is necessary, if we're going to be relevant, to literally be able to make those changes and to make them quick if we're going to help our students to really be successful in today's world. Anybody want to take a shot? Nat, you look like you want to say something.
Yes, let me, I would like to address both questions. First, the hanging, you said slow curveball. I thought it was a hanging curveball there for a minute. On that, the first question about your students, I would encourage you about teaching. I would encourage you to own your students. Now, what do I mean by own your students? You know who you admit at the institution. So put things in place to help them to be successful. That means that every professor should be a great teacher. I want to delineate between a lecturer and a teacher. The lecture motto is the sage on the stage. The teacher is the hands-on guide on the side. There is a difference. When your students come in and you know that they're going to need remediating, then put a program in place in your curriculum to address that. For an example, just course offerings. I used to write catalog copy for an institution in my department. Most institutions will offer Comp 1 as a freshman year, right? You offer Comp 2 when? Spring. I'm going to tell you, you might need to offer Comp 1 in the fall and in the spring. Now, why? Because you know the students that are coming in we're probably going to have to take a remediation course in reading and writing maybe. So you adjust your curriculum to meet the real needs, not the perceived needs. The perceived needs is that I am a professor and I'm going to go and do my thing. Own your students. Now, the second part of your question. I like your analogy. I use the same one sometimes. Changing higher ed is like trying to turn the Titanic. And they wasn't very successful. It can be done. It's about leadership. It's about leadership at the top,
It's about leadership at the dean level. It's about leadership at the program level. It's about leadership within the faculty. It almost comes down to being a leader within yourself and asking the question, why am I here? Am I here to truly make a difference? Or am I here, I got a job?
All right, thank you. All right. As Ms. Johnson prepares to respond, there are a couple of things that come to mind that are slightly humorous. One, there was a trustees meeting several years ago at Duke University where there was a big discussion about moving into the 21st century in terms of technology and so forth, and the folks who were really pushing for the university to be more progressive did not make very much headway in that trustees meeting. And following the trustees meeting, one of the trustees walked up to the president of the university and told him, he said, you know, the moment that I hear that the world is about to come to an end, I'm going to come and enroll as a student at Duke, because everything takes a year longer to happen here. And I'm reminded of another one. These are true. University of Chicago, the past president, and I won't say how far past, that way we don't, y'all don't get into trouble, because I'm gonna be leaving in a minute. But after a contentious faculty fight, the president of the University of Chicago said that leading a university is kind of like being a cemetery groundskeeper, Chancellor Johnson. He said, you preside over a whole lot of people, but it's so difficult to get them to do anything. With that in mind, we'll turn to Ms. Johnson and see what comments she'd like to make.
I like those. I think I'll use them at Simmons, Stephen. And I completely agree with both Ms. Moore and Dr. Williams. Just a little bit different twist on what we've talked about today. I'll speak to the classroom environment, and something that Dr. Wilkin said is that students graduate, and they may even graduate with honors, good grades, but they don't succeed. One of the things I mentioned talking about collaborative efforts is internships, the ability for hands-on. I think sometimes, while it's equally important that we have the classroom learning environment just right, I think today it's extremely important that we concentrate on some other things. Technology is a huge part, but I think that sometimes technology serves to be a disadvantage when a student gets out. They text, they email, they Google, but they don't communicate. They don't talk to one another. My son, when he was at home, and he's now 27, but when he was at home, I looked up one day and he and his friend were both on their phones, and I noticed they weren't talking. They were texting across the room to each other. So something we've all mentioned to you in responses and presentations is the ability to communicate, collaborate. One, how do you know that's truly the profession you want if you've never had any experience in it? So you could have a good professor and the right learning environment, but the only thing you know about the profession is what you've read about it or what you've seen others in that profession do. So I think sometimes businesses need to be hand in hand with universities so that the students get an opportunity to see if that is truly the career path they want to take. And the other side of that is I believe it helps to build those communication skills that are vital to any student or any individual today, be it in the business environment or any other. You have to be able to communicate.
Thank you. As we prepare now to offer the opportunity to you to ask questions, we have a few minutes left. I want to transition by saying that the issues that we talk about here and the importance of a seminar like this is that we really, hopefully, will take seriously looking at what it is that we as individuals as well as an institution need to do to be relevant. You know, sometimes people spend so much time believing their own propaganda. You know, they start bragging and they believe their own propaganda and they never change, because that reminds me of the time that the 3 little 8-year-old boys were playing in the backyard and they were each bragging. And so the first little boy bragged and said, my daddy is the mayor of this town. Everything has to come through him. Another little boy said, my daddy is the president of the bank. All the money has to come through him. The third little boy was trying to think, what in the world can I brag about concerning my daddy? My daddy is the pastor of the church. Oh, I know. My daddy owns hell. And so the other little boy said, no, he doesn't. He said, yes, he does. I'm telling you, my daddy owns hell. So they were arguing back and forth. He said, so finally one of the little boys said, prove it. How do you know your daddy owns hell? He says, I know because when he got home last night from the board meeting, he told my mama that the church had given it to him. All right, we'll take a few questions from the audience. Are there any questions? If you would stand. Yes, sir.
We'll take about 2, I think.
Okay. All right. We'll take just 2 or 3 at the most. And all right, here we go.
What I wanted to know is, I'm someone who's interested, being an alumnus, in finding external funding for the university. And what I want to ask a panel is, how do we continue to get on your docket and continue to get within your eyesight when we are in transition, when we are working on our branding? How do we maximize your attention in terms of not being where we should be, but we're going that direction?
First of all, let me encourage you to not just look at the ones up here at the table, but I tell you what I tell all prospective grantees. Do your research. There are several foundations out there. There are several companies and businesses. Have a good case statement. It is a very key piece. A case statement is going to give an overview of what your needs are. It's going to address, you know, what the problem is, how you want to go about solving it. The research part then comes in as for, look for foundations or businesses that have an interest in that area. Most foundations will have a niche. And what you need to do is to do the research to determine whether that's a good fit. And I used to be on the other side before working for a foundation of trying to seek funding. And sometimes you have to be persistent. You have to believe. One of the things I look for on a cold call, and we get a lot of cold calls, which means we have no idea, just you pick up the phone and someone is asking for something. I do take the time and have a conversation, but I'm looking to find out, is this for real? Whatever you're trying to accomplish, will it make a difference? You know, very seldom does any organization receive resources because of who they are. It's more about what they're going to accomplish with those resources. And so that's what I'm looking for. What are you going to accomplish with the resources? And if whatever you're going to accomplish, will it truly make a difference in the lives of the people that you're trying to serve? Once that decision is made, then we can either go to the next step or not.
All right, thank you. And we're going to move along, get one more question perhaps, although I would like to address, Doc, the question that you asked by just simply saying that UAPB has a very rich history and heritage, and that's a good thing. Let's never forget that. At the same time, however, what better time to take a look at your branding than when you're in transition and you have the opportunity then to create a brand that speaks to the 21st century. So now we have a question back here. Yes, sir.
Dr. Johnson.
And then I've got to leave enough time also for Dr. Benjamin because she has some things to say.
Okay. I just wanted to say one thing in that, and I won't keep, I'll make this very short, but I believe exactly in what Dr. Williams said, but one step further, we talk about collaboration. Get your businesses involved with your rebranding. Have them sit on those panels and on your committees so that they get to have input. You buy in a lot more to what you have input into. And what you want are to produce students that are beneficial to the communities and the businesses. So I encourage you also, when you look for ways to get that funding, find the businesses and ask them the questions and let them serve with you in this project.
All right, thank you.
Let me give a note of caution too. I totally agree with what she said, but I want to go a step further. At most of the institutions I work with, I have one point of contact. No long rangers. In other words, whatever you're looking for, it needs to come through a central office on campus. So I just kind of want to lay that out there now. It needs to be one message. Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you. Sir, yes.
Okay. This is in relation to one of Chancellor Johnson's priority, that's the internship. And just I'd like to know from our panelists as how we could nurture this university corporate relationship to have a successful internship program which would be useful for our students. Thank you.
One thing that I will say, and Dr. Martin, Carla, and I were visiting today, and we happen to not only be peers and colleagues in the business world, but friends. I think it takes getting everyone together to the table, and it's different. We look at what are the degrees, what are you graduating students in, and then I think we bring businesses such as Simmons First, banking, you bring manufacturing, as Beverly talked about, the skill sets for each are different. You bring those people to the table and you all have a input and a part in developing those intern programs. So I think when you go about developing those internships, someone brings everyone to the table and we start to say, what is it we need out of those internships? What does the university want to get out of that? What does the student need out of it? And what does the business need out of it? And you build your model accordingly.
All right, thank you. Would you join me in giving thanks to our panel? And next, would you join with me as Dr. Benjamin comes forward to say a few words. Let's give some thanks for her work as well.
The first thing that I would like to do is to ask you again to help us let the panel and the moderator know how much we appreciate their being here with us. Representative Wilkins, if you'll stand by the panel, Chancellor Johnson is going to bring over some expressions of our appreciation. Thank you very much. Now guys, get ready. In the last session, I introduced our guest from South Africa, And I told you that we would be that you would get to know more about her visit. She is in the country taking a look at universities that can be of benefit to her university, the University of Zululand. We are so proud that UAPB, the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, was one of the universities that she selected. And what we are about to experience now is a signing ceremony formalizing a partnership with that university, and she is the president of that university. So we are going to do the signing, and then she will make a quick comment to you. After that, I have just about 2 announcements for you, okay? And any comment that they would like to make after they sign, now is the time. The person who is giving oversight is Dr. Pamela Moore. She is director of our international programs. She's been doing a great job in terms of helping us to broaden our participation internationally. All of you in the audience, think of ways that you can take your discipline to South Africa. The door is now being opened. This is an example of the partnerships that Chancellor Johnson has mentioned so frequently to you. I think really we needed about 5 or 10 different pens over there so they could give everybody a copy of the pen like the president does when he's signing a new bill into action. There's a particular interest in agriculture, aquaculture, addiction studies, all of the sciences, physics, biology, mathematics, chemistry, all of those. And those are just people that the initial conversation has taken place with. So if you have ideas on ways that you can be involved, not only by working with them in South Africa, but by inviting some of their teachers to this country, as well as inviting their students, talking about enrollment, as well as getting some of their students to study here in this country. And we are so proud to have our business and foundation partners see and realize what is happening here at the university.
First, just let me, on behalf of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, say how pleased we are to join you with this partnership. We look forward to years of productive activity in terms of the areas that you identified and we agreed to. We know there's no limit to the things that we can accomplish if we work together. So again, we're happy to have you here and we're happy to be a part of this partnership.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I think for me this is a great moment, not only about the signing of the memorandum. I came at a very appropriate time, and I think I've benefited more than what I had come here for. As I said this morning through the sessions, I am convinced that we are sharing common destinies and we've shared common histories. And I'm confident that we are taking our institutions forward on the same path. And the input by the panelists was very reassuring of that position. I just want to reaffirm that what I've experienced today, I am confident that we have partners in advancing higher education, not only at the University of Zululand, not only at this university, but in the United States of America, in the continent of America, in the Republic of South Africa, and in the continent of Africa. Ms. Johnson, you spoke so much about the change of the 21st century, and to both panelists, be assured that we were listening very carefully. It's very rare that we get this kind of substantive feedback as leaders of institutions of higher education. Our motto at our university is restructured for relevance. Dr. Johnson spoke about this relevance, and I think this memorandum will help us to put together our strengths and unpack this relevance. Again, thank you for this historic moment. My university would be very proud. They've phoned twice wanting to know how it's going. Thank you to APB.
A historic moment for the university, and you have been witness to it.